What's going on, guys? My name is Kris, and in this video, I interview seven-figure Amazon seller Kev. He sells in the UK marketplaces, and what makes Kev unique is he's started a seven-figure online arbitrage business. So that means he buys from retailers, sends into Amazon for a profit. A lot of people say this is not a viable business model for selling on Amazon. They say that it's not scalable. Well, they obviously have not done enough research. You can see that in the timestamps in the description below, more specific of what we talk about, and so you can hop around if you want. So I think you guys are going to find a lot of value out of this. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Hey everyone, Kris here, and I have a guest. I'm going to allow him to introduce himself, and we're going to get right to it. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, Kris. It's good to connect with you and see you. My name's Kev, and I've been an Amazon seller since 2015, mainly online arbitrage. And yeah, it's great to come on and provide your audience with some great knowledge, hopefully.
Yeah, so I think that's awesome that you've been doing it so long. You've been doing it, a couple years longer than me, and I always love learning from people like that. Now, I guess something I wanted to ask you was, how did you even get into Amazon to begin with? Like, how did you stumble across it?
Great question. So I stumbled across it back in 2015. I'd just become an electrical engineer, and I liked the idea of selling on eBay. I wasn't even aware of Amazon at that point. But the problem I found immediately with eBay was as soon as I got a sale, and I only had one or two sales, I then had to go to the post office and ship. And I thought to myself, this isn't something that I can actually do because I work long hours as an engineer. And then I came across this idea of fulfillment by Amazon, where I could just ship all these products to Amazon and they would take care of everything. And that was the perfect scenario for me, being at work. At home, I had a small young family, and it just allowed me just to ship all these products just to the UPS center, and they would take care of everything. And perfect, amazing. I got my first sale then in the June of 2015, and in the December, 6 months later, I ended up quitting my job. So just to do this full time, which is it's been a crazy couple of years out here in the warehouse now, but it's amazing.
That's awesome, dude. That is really awesome. Now, and I think we kind of touched on this behind the scenes, but you sell in the UK, is that correct? Like, that's your main audience?
Correct. I sell in the UK and
Interesting.
the EU marketplaces. So you've got France, Germany, Spain, Italy as well.
So you sell in all of those then, in all of those marketplaces?
Correct, yes. As soon as we ship all our products to our main marketplace, which is the UK, Amazon automatically link across all the different the EU marketplaces as well, which makes a
Wow.
big difference.
And see, I had someone from my channel mention Germany to me, and I'm not familiar at all. They were asking me about UK and Germany, and I didn't know you at the time. So now I'm going to go back to that message and direct them your way. That is unfamiliar territory for me, but really interesting. So when you're doing this, you're at a level like, like I talk about my sales, like I'm coming up on that 20K a month mark in gross sales, and you're beyond that. So I guess the first thing I want to ask is like, what do you use to primarily find products? I know on my channel, I talk a lot about tactical arbitrage, and it really works well for me. Is there a certain system or process that you use that helps you vet and find items?
Yes, exactly. So just to put you in the picture where I'm at, over the last 2 years, we've sold over £2 million worth of products now.
That's
Last
amazing.
last quarter, the last Q4, we sold over £200,000 worth of products throughout the EU marketplace. And to do that level of operation, it's been a big learning curve for me right at the beginning because, as you know, with Amazon, it's time consuming, especially if you are prepping all your products, you're sourcing all your products. So at the start, what I did was I split the business up into different stages. So you've got sourcing, you've got reviewing, you've got purchasing, you've got shipping. And then what I did, I logically thought, okay, I need to outsource sourcing first because that is the most time consuming thing.
Hands down, yes. Wow, awesome.
Exactly. So what I did was I hired my first ever virtual assistant, And at the time I'd never worked with virtual assistants. I'd never even heard of virtual assistants before, but I had a virtual assistant from the Philippines who would then
Okay.
source toys and games for me from retail stores. And that quickly, from one virtual assistant, because it was like, wow, all these products, I quickly scaled that to 4 virtual assistants in different categories. So I wasn't just doing toys and games. I was now doing health and personal care, beauty, groceries, kitchen and home. I was basically allocating a virtual assistant to each category that I could source
Wow.
products. Then when I did quit my job, because we scaled very, very quickly, in the December of 2015, we got to about £36,000 worth of sales in that month. So I quit my job and I was like, I've got to go in all in with this. I then realized that all my time was spent doing reviewing of all these products that were getting sent to me via all the different sourcing files. So then I got my first senior virtual assistant who basically reviews all those products. That's what he was doing. And then I was just purchasing the products. So I was then no longer sourcing or reviewing. Fast forward then another 6 months, I'd got more virtual assistants, and then I outsourced purchasing, which basically got me to a point where virtual assistants were purchasing, sourcing, reviewing my entire inventory list, which was amazing. We just then needed to get out into a warehouse because we were just getting so many products.
Wow, that's phenomenal. So I'm going to ask you, and I love how you created specialized virtual assistants. I think that's awesome, and an awesome strategy. Now, I guess how I want to ask this is, when you're vetting and hiring assistants, how does that hiring process look for you? You know, how many people do you take a look at? What are some characteristics that you look for in a good virtual assistant? What's the training program like? Because I feel like a question that I want answered. So
It's a fantastic question. And what I wanted to do is I just recommend you 2 books that I read and really took value from. The first book is Work the System by Sam Carpenter. And the other one is The E-Myth Revisited by Michael E. Gerber. And these 2 books really helped me understand that you don't want to be the operator in your business. Because if you're the operator in your business and then you become ill or you can't source, or maybe you're not feeling as motivated, you've still got the operations going. And I used the lessons that I learned in those books to hire my virtual assistant. So a couple of great questions right off the bat was, when I had my senior assistants, these are more my managing assistants, I wanted a little more from them. So straight away, I knew the importance with Amazon, numbers, Excel sheets, Google Sheets. I knew I needed somebody to be an expert when it comes to Microsoft Excel and functions and formulas. You need to employ somebody that, well, this is what I thought, that's smarter than me. You know, so I was saying to them, this virtual assistant, look, I need this for my business. Can you do that? So that was straight away. If they didn't know how to do it, they just wouldn't be hired. Another thing that I asked was, would you be willing to work for free for the next 2 weeks, for first 2 weeks for free, no money? Because that really taught me then and showed me how committed are they? You know, do they want to do this for long term? Because if they want to work for me for years to come, surely 2 weeks shouldn't be a problem for them. And using these types of questions, my first senior assistant is now my operations manager. So he came in the January of 2016, and the way he looks now is he overlooks all our sourcing, our reviewing, and purchasing. So, you know, it's been a great way that I've been able to recruit assistants.
that's phenomenal. That's really awesome. Yeah, I think that really answers that question. And I'm going to put a link to those 2 books in the description below, so you guys can check those out. And then another question I had was, so you're in the UK. Do you want to get into any other markets, or do you just really focusing on the UK? Do you, like, I know there's Australia, there's the US. Like, I mean, like, do you just, like, I mean, like, what's your take on that?
Well, my take is it's amazing what we're able to do right now. You've got Amazon, India, Australia, the US.
Yep.
And I did actually start in the US early 2016. I was in the UK. I was slowly building up. I just quit my job. And I thought I need to get into the US as well. I need to sort of expand as quickly as possible. But I ended up stopping the US operations just so I could focus in on the UK. But now I have got an operation in the UK that is automated. I've got a prep service here. I've got girls here that work here in the warehouse who prep all my products. That's now freed me up to look at different things. So the US is definitely somewhere I would like to take a look at. Most likely private label, I would imagine. The Australia is only pretty new. I think only like 6 months or something. So I think there's a great opportunity for any of us. The biggest lesson I had going back to anybody that I could share is I didn't want to dilute myself too much. It ended up actually hurting me a lot in my business when I was trying to focus in on purchasing products in the US as well as the UK. You know, focus on one place first, get that automated, and then you can look somewhere else.
And see, that's kind of been my thoughts too, is right now I'm just focusing on the US, and I really haven't, I mean, I see the bigger picture, but I haven't really spent any time and energy devoted towards that. But that's a great idea though, and something I just took away is, automate this side of the business first and then set your sight forward. So
Exactly.
that's awesome. And now you already kind of answered this, but it is something I wanted to touch on. So I wanted to touch on, what is your work schedule like? So I know that, you're kind of at this point with your OA business where, things are starting to free up more and it gives you time and energy to focus elsewhere. I mean, do you have like a set schedule of like, okay, I'm going to spend like I know you mentioned private labeling. I want to spend this much amount of time doing product research, or like, I don't know. I'm just like, what's your
Yeah. So I think the whole productivity is something really, really, it's important to think about your productivity, because obviously we've only got the same amount of time every single day. So when it comes to my productivity, my schedule, the way I'm at now with my business is I have a day allocated to my different businesses. So I have an online arbitrage business, which I will focus on a Monday, for example. What I usually do on a Monday would be, I would do the team meeting, because we have a number of employees here in the warehouse. We'd do a team meeting, see if there's any problems where we can improve. And then I'll look to improve the systems in some way, because I'll try to systemize everything through documentation, through just so if any of my employees or virtual assistants were to leave at any point, we could then hire somebody else, and it's not having to, that person's not going with all the knowledge. So we document everything. So that's what I usually do. I usually, each day I'm focused in on trying to improve one of my businesses. And the best thing that I try to focus on when it comes to productivity, I have two sort of, classifications of tasks. I have a maintenance task and I have a growth task. I'm always thinking, can I get at least 3 growth tasks done in a day? That's what I always try to do. And give you an example of a growth task. A growth task could be, when you're first starting out, it could be sourcing products. Okay, because sourcing products would give you some growth. But eventually it comes a time when, let's say you're sourcing products for the next 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, it comes a time where you can't source anymore. You're burning out. It's more of a maintenance task now. You're just trying to source that same amount of products. So it's about, for me, I started to think, okay, when does a task go from a growth task to a maintenance task? Yeah, because then at that point then, I can start to outsource. I can start to, okay, I need to outsource and I need to get somebody else to do this. So every day I try to do 3 growth tasks, not just in business. It could be working out, health and fitness. It could be in my business. It could be something like doing some product research for private label. It could be on my YouTube channel, for example, publishing a video. That's what I would call my growth tasks. So that's what I would recommend to anybody. Try focusing in on the sort of the biggest growth task you could do every day, which would just get you a step forward every day. And then keep asking yourself the question, does this growth task, is it still giving me growth, or is it now being a maintenance task? Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. Perfect. That's awesome. See, and that's kind of like what I like to hear, some of the big picture stuff. That was really, and see, I'm kind of at that point too where the crossover, it's not a straight line. There's a gray area, and
Yeah.
it's about, just making that decision of, do I want to hire someone now? Do I want to wait a little bit? So that's great. Now, I wanted to ask, this is something more specific that one of my subscribers wanted me to ask was, what are some criteria that you look for in a good potential product to source? Or I guess, not only you, but your team in general. I know that it's probably varies per category maybe, but you can just kind of give like a broad overview.
Yeah, of course. I mean, to be successful with online arbitrage, if you are sourcing dead stock that's not going to sell, then you've got no business. You're just going to have a lot of stock that's not selling. So I was very, very clear right at the beginning, especially when you have other people spending money on your behalf. You need to be very, very, there can't be any gray area. It needs to be, this is either a product we would purchase or this is not a product we would purchase. And there's no gambling in between. Yeah. So I basically made a check sheet, like an A4 piece of paper that was, does the product, is it exactly the same to begin with? Because you'd be surprised if
yeah.
There's those times where you've got like, oh, that's a slight different variation. You don't want any negative feedback. So straight away, is it the same product? Then it would be check the sales rank, camel, camel, camel. I'm always asking my team to make sure that you check the actual graph on camel, camel, camel and keeper. Don't just see, oh, the rank is 10,000 and assume it's a winner. We'll just purchase it.
Exactly. Yeah.
You've got to look at the real-time data over the last sort of 4 weeks, 6 weeks. So that would be one thing.
They could have just sold. Now it's at 10,000, but yesterday it was 150,000. So
exactly. So we're always looking. Has the product sold at least 4 times in the last month? Just to give us a bit of a. If it's only sold once, then we're not purchasing that.
Yeah, that's a good point, because sometimes you'll see that keep a graph where it's just like one dip. It may be great, everything else, but it just dips once, and you're just thinking, no, I don't want. That's a good point.
Exactly, and it's the same for the price as well. Just because the price on the Amazon listing is what it is, it doesn't mean it's always been what it is. So I'm very, very strict on that. I ask my sourcing team, and then I have multiple layers of, protection. Because somebody else is purchasing these products on my behalf, I have the sourcing assistant that goes through this checklist, but then I have a reviewing assistant, which will then double check that checklist. So another one would be, check the keeper graph. What has the price been on average over the last month or two? Has it just recently, over the last couple of days, just spiked up and there's been no sales on it since the price doubled or something? So these are the things that are really, really important. Another thing that's really, really important, now I'm not doing the sourcing and listing and purchasing. I have my reviewing assistant have a user permission in my Seller Central account who will then check for hazardous materials. We want to make sure that we can sell the product as well. So they're just some of the things that are really, really important. And it needs to be, yes, that's right. Before at the end, it will then say, okay, we can purchase this product. That's the best advice I could give. Try not making it gray. It's got to be black or white.
No, those are all criteria that I use myself, and I'm glad to hear from someone who's doing more sales than me that I'm on the right track. So
Absolutely.
that's always nice reassurance. Yeah, I'm just going through some of the other questions I have here. Is there anything that you might want to add in terms of, there's people on all stages, right? But maybe just for someone in the beginning who hasn't started yet, or, maybe scared to start or doesn't know where to start, any advice that you could give as an experienced guy who's been doing this for, coming up on 3 years?
I remember when I first started, and there's a lot of concern, there's a lot of worry that comes right at the beginning, especially because there's so much confusion. I remember myself spending a lot of hours at night just trying to understand, what is this camel? What is this sales rank? All these things were really, really quite confusing to me. And what I did to sort of, I guess, build my own confidence right at the beginning was I went out and I purchased just the one product, and I purchased 4 units of that product. I made sure it goes across all these checklists, and I was like, do you know what? I'm going to put £50 into this. It's about $60, I believe, in the US. I'm going to buy these 4 units, and I'm just going to send them into Amazon. I'm going to go through and I guess stumble through the process. I had no idea how to list any products. I had no idea how to price any products and all these things. And once I first got that sale, it then validated it to me that, wow, this does work. So for anybody that's maybe right at the beginning that is maybe a little confused or not entirely sure where to head or turn, I think that's normal for everybody, because that's certainly something that I experienced I was very worried with my money right at the beginning for sure. And then it's just a case of, you need to, right at the beginning, I had a full-time job as an engineer, and I also had, at the time when I started, I had my daughter who was 6 months at the time. So we only had a young family, and it was trying to juggle everything, and we've all got really busy lives. So right at the beginning, I was doing things like, could I just find one product today? You know, just set myself small little targets each day. Can I just find one product? Can I just find 2 products? And then you start having a bit of a competition with myself. It was like, wow, today I found, you know, £500 worth of products. That's amazing. Can I do more tomorrow? You know, so at the beginning, that's what I would say. Just set yourselves like a target every day that gets a little bit of competition with yourself, and you'll know exactly. And I'm sure so many of us Amazon sellers are the same. Once you get that momentum going, once you get going and you're boxing and you're purchasing, you're sourcing, and you're finding winners, it just builds that momentum, that motivation, and then you just ride the wave. Then just keep going and keep going.
I think that's great advice. Like just the small goals in the beginning, and then just scale from there.
Yeah.
I know that's something I did myself. So yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. I know I gained a lot of value out of this, like out of our short conversation. Hopefully a lot of other people did too. Now, where can people find you at? Where can people reach you? What's the best way to contact you?
Yeah, the best way to contact me is on my YouTube channel and my blog. So I'm quite active on my YouTube channel, which is Life Success Engineer. I talk about Amazon, I talk about online business, and productivity and things like that. So if you wanted to find me on my YouTube channel, you can do. I'm always interacting with everybody in the chat, and my blog is lifesuccessengineer.com. So
I will link both of those in the description below for everyone so they can reach out to you there. And I really appreciate it. I hope to bring you on again. I'm sure we'll have some more questions for you. Thank you very much.
thank you very much for having me, Kris. I really appreciate it.
Hey, no problem. Talk soon.
Cheers.